My fiancé, 26 female, and I, 27 male, decided to break up, but she couldn't move out due to the lockdown. After about 4 months isolating with her, I've realized I don't want to break up anymore. I'm not from the US, and I'm also not a native English speaker, so I apologize in advance if there will be any confusing sentences in this post. My fiancé and I have been dating since college, and as soon as we graduated, I proposed to her. However, we decided to get married only once we're both financially stable and okay with our jobs. 2 years down the road, we've also been living together for that long. We now meet those requirements. However, our love for each other has disappeared, or at least the spark we used to have. We became very busy, her with her graduate education plus job, and me with my work. I admit I've been spending way too much time in the office, and once I get home, I use my free time to get ahead with deadlines and stuff. She's also constantly stressed, and she's juggling her education and her teaching job. We never had time for each other anymore, but we were still busy enough to even notice that. Then March came. She approached me with the subject, and we had a long, hard talk. It was an emotional one. We've known each other for so long after all, and we were reaching our end after so many years. She was already in the process of booking flights to stay with her parents for a while when the lockdown was announced. She decided not to go home anymore in fear of possibly carrying the virus and infecting her family. I agreed with that decision, and since then we've been isolating together. We're both working from home now, and she also finished her studies in April. Because of that, we've been having a lot of free time. At first it felt awkward. I didn't know how to talk to her anymore. I got used to short and empty small talk with her, but she's always known how to get me out of my shell, so it didn't take long before we were having full conversations once again. I just found out that she's had a newfound love for playing Sims 4. She showed me the family she was playing with currently, and I noticed that it was herself and me, plus a dog and a cat whose names were our birth moms, lol. She had been so shy initially, but she doesn't know that I was also feeling flustered then. I think this is the start of my questioning our decision to break up. After that, it was the small thing. I also caught her up on how my life has been, like my shitty supervisor, how I haven't been taking care of my health lately, etc. And since then, she started pushing me to work out with her, and she's also been trying to get me on healthier options of food. I also came to find out new things about her in these months, which is surprising considering how we've been together for so many years now. The past few months have been really good. Felt like I was brought back to the times when we first met, and I feel like a high schooler with a crush. The thing is, I'm not sure if I can trust my feelings right now. The only person I've had contact with was her, except for my frequent calls with family and friends, and I may just be having an infatuation right now. I also think we're lucky since we're both very free right now. But I keep thinking, what happens after the lockdown ends? Will we go back to being those busy people that have too little time for each other? I also don't know how to approach her with this. She's always been the talker in our relationship, you know, but at the same time, I'm also afraid to talk about it and potentially ruin things for us right now. What if she doesn't feel the same? What if she's just treating me kindly because that's where she is, a genuine kind person? The only hope I'm holding on to right now is the fact that she hasn't planned on going back to her family yet, despite domestic travels being allowed in our country now. How do I go on about this? Relevant comments before we dive into updates. I think maybe try it while y'all are talking or playing a game or doing something together. Just say, I don't think I want to break up anymore. And that should get the conversation started. OP says, oh boy, I honestly tried so many times to try and bring it up. We were playing Sims once, and in my head, I was yelling at myself to ask why she made our family in that game, but I could never get the words out. Instead, I just went silent the whole time she talked. Sigh. Another comment, not to put too fine a point on it, but you're not talking to her was a big part of the problem in the first place. Valid. Let's get into tater thoughts here.
I think when I read this story, I was like, this is why they say that marriage is work. You do have to be intentional with your time. And when you stop spending time with people, like it's easy to put them in a separate box. And eventually those feelings can fade, and then they're just a person that you're just cohabitating with. And so I think you have to be intentional about spending time with someone and making sure that you're watering your relationship and keeping it healthy. Otherwise, you're just two people existing in the same house. And I think a lot of couples find themselves in that spot because life is hard and it gets really busy. And I do think that when like lockdowns happen, that it made a lot of people slow down for the first time. And this came out of that, and they were able to stop for a second and redefine what they wanted.
They kind of met each other for the first time again because of who they are now, right? Yeah. I am curious because I assumed people being in a confined space together and only having each other, I would assume that would cause more divorces than new relationships or renewed relationships,
You would go
healthier
crazy.
relationships. I would go crazy, but not because of you. I would just go crazy.
Yeah.
But I would have like the whole house remodeled by the end of it. It's interesting. I don't see a risk with saying how you actually feel.
Yeah,
here.
I think he has trouble communicating his emotions because he's feeling all these things, but he just can't make the words come out because he's afraid of what might happen on the other side. And I think if you're always afraid to speak how you're feeling and to say those things out loud, shit like this happens where you just kind of fall apart from each other because you're not being real and you're not being honest with what you're feeling on the inside. And so you can't ever let someone truly get to know you. And so once the lust fades and the newness fades and life gets really hard,
and you have to talk
Yeah.
about stressful shit.
you don't have that person who really knows you and really sees you and can tell when something is wrong or tell when something's going on. And so I think it's incredibly important to communicate your feelings in a relationship in order for it to last.
Yeah, and you're right, Aaron. He risks losing her either way. So
Yeah.
what do you have to lose at this point? Although I would say journaling would be very beneficial for you because you have these thoughts. You can't explain what you don't understand. That's where a lot of lack of communication for guys comes from, right?
True.
You can't explain what you don't understand, so we just don't. We also don't take the time to figure it out. We're just like, I don't get it, and just leave it there. You know what I mean? But if you started journaling, you'd have another person to talk to there, and that person would be you. You can have conversations with yourself to help sort this out. Because if you did say what you were contemplating saying, I think it could have been misinterpreted. You said you wanted to say, "Why did you make our family in Sims?" Which, as a couple who has decided to break up, who is now cohabitating because of a lockdown, sounds a little accusatory, does it not? It's not like, "Hey, why'd you make our family in Sims?" Like, it would be difficult to deliver that line cute or in a way that like felt positive.
Right.
It feels a little bit like you're weirded out by it. And I would not lead with that. Once you write it down and come up with something better and then speak. Yes.
Why'd you do that?
Why? Why am I in your game? All right, we ready for the update? First update?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. Update 6 days later. So the day after posting that, nothing really happened. I spent that day reflecting on what kind of future I see and want with her. I also thought a lot about the past, how we messed it up, how we both got too lost in our jobs, etc. In my original post, I asked if what I'm feeling could just be an infatuation that would go as quickly as it came. But I realized that my feelings for her never really disappeared to begin with. It's just like my heart just went in a deep sleep and I forgot how many feelings I carried for her. I think some of you may know and have pointed out that I'm not really good at communicating my feelings. I tend to keep things to myself, and my fiancé is one of the few people who can be patient with that. Some suggested to write a letter instead, or a note, or marry her in Sims. I ended up with drafts of sappy letters that I ended up scrapping in a sad attempt to recreate us in The Sims. But still, I wanted to make an effort to show her what I couldn't say through words. I've heard about her wanting a few DLCs in The Sims in the past, so I had an idea to buy a few for her. Sims DLCs are pretty expensive, especially in our currency. Surprised her by stealing her laptop for a few hours, and once I gave it back to her, she was elated and so happy. It was really nice seeing her get so excited over it. We played together that whole day and tried to solve the mystery in Strangerville, a game back in The Sims. It was so fun. The next day, I found her in the kitchen trying to bake something. It was a blueberry cheesecake recipe she saw on YouTube. I basically became her cooking assistant that day, helping her as much as I could, and we ended up having a pretty decent outcome that I bet would have tasted better if I hadn't messed up so much. She said she had so much fun and loved the cheesecake, though. The next day, which was just yesterday, something important happened. We were basically just snuggled up on the couch playing when our Sims just autonomously tried for baby in the bed. It was hilarious, and we initially laughed about it, but then we got pretty silent. She then closed her laptop and hugged me tightly. Then, without saying anything, I think that was my realization that, oh, she feels the same as I do. So I knew I had to speak up. I'm still impressed at myself for managing to talk yesterday without choking up. Basically opening up the conversation like, are you planning to go to your parents soon? Still, we got to work on this, buddy. And she said, no, she doesn't feel like it yet. I asked her why. She told me she wanted to stay. I told her I wanted her to stay too. We went to sleep that night and just cuddled together. And even though we really didn't explicitly say it, I think we're now aware of each other's feelings, and it feels like a really huge improvement to me. Earlier, we ate breakfast together. We weren't as chatty as we've been the last few months, but the silence was comforting. We also watched Knives Out together. We haven't had the conversation yet, but I'm going to bring it up to her tonight. I'm really glad this whole ordeal went much nicer than I expected it would, and I'm relieved I didn't let my doubts get the best of me. Though I still have to get better with how I communicate things, I'm going to learn for her. Thank you to everyone who left nice comments on my original post. I apologize again if there are any mistakes on my post. I'm not a native English speaker, nor am I from the USA. For not a native English speaker, fantastic writer. Thank you very much. Who else was like, oh, they're going to do it?
I think the fact that he identifies what he's not strong at, which is communication, and says that I'm going to work on it for her, for their relationship, is really important. And also, if he asked me why, like if it was you asking me why I made our family in Sims, I would get like, my face has captions, so I would...
You'd be like...
Yeah, exactly. My face would go to...
But somebody could easily take that the opposite direction, you know, and be like...
Sure.
Be like,
if you're looking for the
why
negative.
is it not okay?
But if you're feeling it
yeah.
and you're feeling the positive atmosphere, I think it could have been... I think he can get better at communication, obviously, but he's asking her why because he needs that validation that she's feeling it too.
Yeah.
And I hope that
He's beating around the bush.
Yes, 100%. And he still was. He still asked her the why. But I hope that he gets better and that they are able to see things through.
Even if, you know, she just learns to understand his lingo and what he really means behind it. And it sounds like she would. I think that's awesome. Freaking love this.
Right.
It's fantastic.
I love that they found something to bond over.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Final update. We ready?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I posted this thinking the same people who saw my last post would respond, and seeing that a few users wanted an update back then, thought, what the hell? Why not give them a little update right now and leave it at that? Now I have 5 times more the audience than I had last time. Right now, my fiancé is sleeping next to me. Yes, we had the talk. As soon as I posted this, I logged out and gathered myself so I could tell her what's been on my mind for months. That's not really something so exciting, but we basically just sat down together and talked about what went wrong before. I told her the things I said in my last post, and she admitted to worrying about what happens after the lockdown gets fully lifted too. We both acknowledged that we worked too hard to become financially stable so that we can get married. Right now, though, all we can do is promise and talk about how we're going to manage our time better. Since we have no idea if our country is ever going to return to normal, the curve is not getting flattened at all and the quarantine is about to get extended again. And then we talked about our feelings. I got to tell her I love her again for the first time in years probably, and she told me the same. After that, it was back to a lighter conversation. We basically just bonded until she fell asleep. I honestly thought only a handful of people would see my post. I made sure to use Reddit because this isn't really a big platform in our country, and I was sure she wouldn't see the post, but now that there are like 20K upvotes as I'm typing this, I think she might stumble upon this post sooner or later. Well then, I know she's going to be whining a lot about this, but she'd be glad to know that a lot of people found our relationship wholesome. Thank you all for the kind comments. I know some people are thinking, why haven't you just talked to her in the first place? But getting some perspective from other people really did help give a push. I think if I left myself alone with the thoughts I was having, things would have gone a lot worse. So I'm really grateful. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the awards I've received since this is just a throwaway account though, but it's still cool. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can and then log out. Thank you again. Final comments here. Commenter, beautiful, so happy for you. Please remember this story later in life. I've been married for over 10 years. There are times like this in every long-term relationship when you just aren't feeling the same level of connection and love for each other. Could be because you're too busy or because you have some kind of significant trial that gets in the way. You can avoid some of these barriers, but not all of them. You have to agree to stay together through some lows, knowing that your relationship has the strength to come back. You have to be deliberate about making ways to build your connection and show your love for each other. You have to agree to be kind to each other, to always see each other as beautiful human beings, even when you don't feel the same level of connection. If you can do that, you have the capacity to have a beautiful, rewarding, long-term relationship. Wishing you the best. OP responds, thank you for this. When we broke up, we really thought it was for the best. It was a mutual thing. We talked about this earlier, and she admitted that she felt guilty since she was the one who brought it up, so she thought she was responsible for our breakup. I made sure to tell her that is not the case. I could see now that we both didn't try hard enough. I know other people have had it hard during this quarantine, but I guess we're really lucky that we found a way to turn this bad thing into an eye-opening experience for the both of us.
I made sure to include the relevant comments because I think that's so important to know that there are highs and lows in marriage, in every marriage, in our marriage, and it's, oh, whatever. Life is hard. Like it's always hard. Everything that you choose in life is going to be hard. And sometimes you wonder, what am I doing? Like, why is this work? Why is this? But the good times, like the good times that we get to have in life that's always feels like it's beating us down are the times where it's just like you get this thing and it's just totally worth, like, sorry, I'm going to cry. Shit is hard. Life is hard. Like hormones are hard, all of it. Like, and then you finally see something and you're like, fuck, God, I'm happy. I'm blessed. Like, I'm so thankful for where I'm at in life. And sorry, I'm a crier. Definitely. My face is all red. Like we battle through all the time. And then like we realize why it was worth it. I know for some people it takes a really long time to see the why. And so anyways, I love positive stories. I love happy love stories. I do. I'm such a sap.
This should be our shtick. I mean, we're really good at like the really spicy, dramatic stuff. But,
Absolutely.
But a positive. We were ready for this. We were ready for a positive dose.
Yeah.
And it does. It gets shit's gonna happen no matter what, no matter who you are. Shit's gonna happen. And weathering that together is something that sometimes is not easy.
Right.
But I tell you what, laughing my ass off randomly at home with this woman, like this is fun. This is quality time for us, but nothing compares to when we're both just being stupid and just laughing our asses off, saying the weirdest shit ever back and forth and just having fun together. Like those it's cup filling. It definitely is.
I agree 100%.
But this is a lot better, like being able to do this together, and you guys have been so welcoming of how we transitioned Candy Thunder.
Right.
Of course, because why wouldn't you be? It's really the Candy Thunder channel. I'm just the guy who reads the stories first. But you guys have allowed us to turn this into something that is a job for us, but also like we get to have quality time while we work.
I think, and you said this earlier, this channel has like strengthened our relationship, and it really has. And I think one of the best things while we reflect on other stories, it's also helped us like self-reflect on ourselves and like how can we improve like every situation that we go through. Like you got to take the good with the bad, and how can this situation make me better in the future? And I think for me, knowing that being right isn't really all it's cracked up to be. Like that's not what life is about. You don't always have to be the person who's always right about everything. And I think, making sure that you like self-reflect, for me, that has been the biggest like game changer. And I think also like where you spend your energy. And I know you said that, and it's the Taylor quote, but it's true. Where you spend your energy is how you're going to make yourself feel. So if you spend it in the negative comments of the internet, you're going to be miserable. But if you spend it celebrating your tiny wins, then it's going to mean something to you. So I think, I don't know. I just love love. I love love stories. And we're probably going to be ending a lot of lives with love stories. So.
I'm down.